Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Catherine Wadhams. I'm a licensed lay minister here at St. Peter Mancroft. Welcome to our 1 o'clock Wednesday reflection, whether you're in church or online. And if you are in church to look around, please feel free to carry on, and looking particularly at our display of Grenfell memorial quilts. During Lent, these reflections are used to introduce our study of discipleship as improvisation, which we will continue in the octagon downstairs after this introduction, and all are welcome to join us then. So welcome to the third of 5 sessions of this course, in which we continue our exploration of Christian discipleship. The course is offered as part of the Heart Edge network, which was started at the Church of St. Martin in the Fields in London, and draws on a book written by its vicar, Sam Wells. The book is called Improvisation, and as we discovered in the first 2 sessions, Sam asks us to imagine a worldview in which God and the life of creation are like a 5-act play, within which we improvise our own part. In the session last week, we explored the ways that such improvisation can include blocking. As we discovered, this is when the actors refuse to engage with the story and try to shut it down. However, in his book, Sam also describes the contrasting strategy of accepting. He writes, "An actor accepts an offer by any response that maintains the premise of the action that constituted the offer. Imagine a child in the playground puts 2 fingers together and points them toward another child, and then clicks another finger and says, 'Bang, you're dead.' This is an offer. The second child then has the opportunity to respond to that offer. If the child is prepared to accept the offer, she will conventionally do so by yelping a strangled cry and falling over in a crumpled heap, for this maintains the premise of that first child's offer. The second child must be willing and able to wipe from her mind any thoughts she herself had of actively controlling the outcome of the narrative, and resist the inclination to a passive refusal, such as, 'I'm not playing anymore.' Accepting sees the future as an opportunity in which, for example, the second child may begin to explore the afterlife of a dead soldier, and perhaps reappear to the first soldier as a ghost or an angel. But this only becomes possible if the original death, the first offer, is accepted. Now the story can really develop, as the first child may be introduced to other angels, fall in love with one of them, have to choose whether to die in order to be united with the beloved, and so on. What would it be like to be committed never to block, always to accept? What would it be like to be surrounded by people who are committed to the practice of accepting all offers? The interactions in such a community seem telepathic. It looks like everything has already been arranged. There is no such thing as an accident or an interruption. Everything becomes an offer that can be accepted. The actor who will accept anything that happens seems supernatural. It's the most marvelous thing about improvisation. You are suddenly in contact with people who are unbounded, whose imagination seems to function without limit. People with dull lives often think that their lives are dull by chance. In reality, everyone chooses more or less what kind of events will happen to them by their conscious patterns of blocking and accepting. As part of his argument, Sam Wells asks about the difference between a given and a gift, and whether within the call to improvise faithfully, offers should be regarded as givens or as gifts. As he observes, it is common to understand our experience of the world as being constrained by givens such as time place, and the sin which... This is a worldview characterized above all by scarcity. If this is the case, it is understandable that our response might involve two things. First, a kind of social realism, and second, an otherworldly idealization of the possibility of personal perfection. These are, in fact, the responses of blocking. Sam Wells suggests that the opposite of a worldview full of givens is a worldview made up of gifts. Instead of scarcity, there is plenitude or abundance. In the ultimate sign of scarcity, with resurrection, the gift from God of new life. Studies have shown that gift exchange is a powerful element within relationships and societies. A true gift stands in contrast to an obligation or debt. As such, gift-giving creates and maintains relationships between people that preserve social cohesion much more effectively than rules or constraints do. The acts of giving within a circle of reciprocation also help bring about fairness. The perfect gift has been described as spontaneous, full of affection, and celebratory. It involves making a genuine sacrifice rather than making a bid for a future return of favors. It is in that sense always free, an act of grace. Sam Wells therefore goes on to write, "It may be helpful to conclude by underlining the distinction between givens and gifts. It is the task of the imagination to change or challenge the presumed necessities of the world, to resist the implication that what the Christian community receives are givens rather than gifts. In this sense, givens are things that are simply there and the community must simply adapt to. If it is to remain in the real world, whereas gifts are largely what one chooses to make of them. For those who base their response on the proposed given of scarcity, the task of ethics is to adapt to such givens as prevail in the contemporary world, the objective material causes and boundaries of life. Ethics becomes a process of adjudicating between competing givens. Since the emphasis of givenness is on the giver, ethics is primarily seen from the point of view of those who are in the best position to control the majority of giving. That is, the powerful. It is thus supposed that if Christians put themselves in positions of power, they will influence the givens in a positive way. What I, that is he, Sam Wells, is suggesting by contrast is that the only given is God's story, the theodrama, the 5-act play, the church's narrative. All else is potentially gift. It is not therefore a question of putting oneself in a position of power. Ethics is not principally about how to do the giving. God is the only true giver. His story of how he deals with his people is the definitive given. Ethics is done by people who are on the receiving end, working out how to accept things that present themselves as givens, but cannot be since there is only one given, the narrative of Scripture and the Church's tradition. Moreover, discernment concerns the reception of God's abundant gifts rather than the distribution of the world's limited givens. The process I am describing can therefore be seen as threefold. First, recognizing that much of what seems given is in fact gift. Second, realizing that the key to a gift is not its intrinsic nature or purpose, but how the receiver responds and accepts it. And third, receiving the gift in such a way that it becomes part of the continuing story of the way God deals with his people. Thus is fate a given transformed into destiny, a gift, by placing it within a larger story. In sum, it is within this worldview of abundance and gifts, and in which God and God's ongoing story is the only given, that the practice of accepting is fostered and belongs. More than this, the practice of accepting becomes part of the narrative. We take our place within God's story by changing from people who instinctively block offers into people who instinctively accept offers. To do so takes imagination and training, both of which are developed in our individual lives as we take our place faithfully within the life of the Church. A short summary of what I've been reading is in the course booklet, and in a moment we will start our discussion of Sam Wells's ideas downstairs in the Octagon, or as part of the online discussion group. There are also some questions to help us do this. Thank you.
Do come downstairs. Side doors.